Today we're going to be checking out how does South Africa print money. Go ahead and check this out, guys.
Welcome back to my channel where I try to answer some of your questions in particular about South Africa and questions you may have that you didn't know the answer to. Today's question is, how does the South African Reserve Bank print money? To be honest, the answer to that question is relatively simple. The Reserve Bank owns a company called the South African Banknote Company, and they print the money at a small factory on Jan van Riebeeck Street in Pretoria North. And it's a very
Oh,
unassuming
okay,
factory in
y'all. So now we
comparison
know where to go. Now we know where to go, y'all. We know where they printing that money. It's in Pretoria. Okay,
to
okay.
America's version in Washington, D.C. and Texas, which is really extreme with vaults and all those crazy things. South
That's
Africa's factory,
crazy.
very unassuming. Honestly, you wouldn't even know that it was secure. I'll show a picture of it now. The Reserve Bank tells the banknote company how much money to print, and they print it. That's the quick answer. But I'll give you a brief history of money printing in South Africa now if you're interested.
Yes,
Before I
sir.
tell you the history, I just wanted to mention that a lot of people assume that South Africa's currency is linked to gold because of its history, but it's not true. South Africa dropped the gold standard in 1932 and linked the currency to the pound sterling until 1961, where the South African rand was created. Now, let's go back a
Oh,
few years to figure out how money started in South Africa. It started with the Dutch guilder. In 1652, the first European settlers arrived on South
1652.
African shores and brought along their country's currency. A Dutch explorer who everybody knows of, Jan van Riebeeck, created a trading station on behalf of the Dutch East India Company. This trading station later became known as Cape Town, as we all know. Netherlands' official currency, the Dutch guilder, became the official currency that was used in Cape Town by ships and mariners and traders. As they came through Cape Town, they used the Dutch guilder. In 1782, quite a bit after that, the first paper money was brought to Cape Town. This was the Rix dollar and the Stiver
Hold on,
denominations,
hold on, hold
and
on,
the
hold on. What did that? Let's look at that. The Rix dollar. Y'all see that? Hold on. Can I zoom in on it? Yeah, heck yeah. Let me zoom in. 40 Rix dollars. Cape of Good Hope. 3rd June of 1830, y'all. That's crazy. Are y'all seeing? Okay. Right. It just looks like a piece of paper with writing on it. That's crazy. That's
the
crazy.
Rix dollar and the Stiver denominations, and these were the issued paper
Dang, it's
currency.
hold on, y'all. These notes is going too fast. I want to make sure we see these things. Because these is different, bruh. Okay, now this one looks more like some money right here. It kind of looked like, 500. How much? What is that? RDR? Five sum of $6? Is that what that is? 500. Okay.
And these were the issued paper currency in Cape Town. The first notes are actually handwritten, surprisingly. These notes
Handwritten.
included a government fiscal hand stamp indicating the date of its issue and the value of that note. So it was just a piece of paper stamped and said, this is X amount of money. The Dutch East India
Wow.
Company went bankrupt in the late 18th century, so that's a bit awkward. Great Britain then took control of the region and declared it a British colony in 1806. They then introduced their currency, which lasted until 1826. At that time, sterling coinage became the sole legal tender, and various foreign currencies were not actually allowed to co-circulate in South Africa. After that, the Burger's Pond was issued during 1874, which bore the portrait of Thomas Francois Burger, South Africa's first president. After the discovery of gold, South Africa built a mint in Pretoria and began issuing coins depicting Paul Kruger. These coins, issued between 1892 and 1902, were still based on the British pound sterling. The minting of South African coins was halted in 1902 as the Second Anglo-Boer War had begun. The production of South African coins by Pretoria's Royal Mint began again in 1923 and continued until 1931. That was when the gold standard was dropped in South Africa. South Africa
Oh,
continued using the British coin system until 1961 when South Africa gained independence.
got to see this. Hold on. Who is this dude right here? Oh, Pretoria. This one even has Pretoria on here. Sud Africans, South African Sud Afrikaans Reserve Bank. £1. Okay.
Until 1961, when South Africa gained independence and became their own republic. The South African Banknote Company was then established in 1958 as a result of a decision by the South African government to print their own South African local currency. The South African Reserve Bank formed a joint venture with Bradbury Wilkinson and Company and commenced production from a factory in Pretoria. Bradbury Wilkinson and Company's shareholding was eventually taken over by the South African Reserve Bank. So the South African Reserve Bank owns the South African Banknote Company. This was the beginning of the South African Rand, which takes its name from the Witwatersrand, where gold was discovered. On 14 February 1961, the Rand replaced the pound. Rand denominations issued were the 1 Rand. These were notes, by the way, paper notes. 1 Rand note, 2 Rand note, 10 Rand and 20 Rand. They were signed by Governor Rissick and remained active until 1967. So that was the first issuance of South African Rand notes. The second issue of South African banknotes was from 1966 to 1977, and it had Jan van Riebeeck on it, all the notes, as well as Protea, the national flower. There were two variations of a 1 Rand note, 2 Rand note, 5 Rand note, and a 10 Rand note. The third issue of South African currency was from 1978 to 1991. They also had Jan van Riebeeck on it and Proteas, but the amounts were more. They added a 20 Rand note and a 50 Rand note, and they cancelled the 1 Rand note. The fourth issue of South African currency was from 1992 to 1993, so just 1 year, and this was when they introduced the big five to the notes. They had the 10 Rand note, 20
Nice. And these are, I love these, bro. They look so like South African notes are so like beautiful to me, bro. The different colors, the animals, you know what I'm saying? Like they look very, very nice, bro. They look very nice.
Rand note, 50 Rand note. They added 100 Rand note and the 200 Rand note. The fifth issue of South African notes was in 1994 when South Africa gained independence from the apartheid government and was used up until 2011. These notes still had the big five, but they also included multiple different South African languages.
Oh,
The
really?
sixth issue of South African notes was in 2012 up until 2018, and these are when they introduced the Nelson Mandela notes. So there was a picture of Nelson Mandela on the front, but they kept the big five and
Oh, yes, 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 yes. Okay, okay. Because I was thinking, is it Nelson Mandela? Okay, so on the front, Nelson Mandela. On the back, they got the big five. Yo, these are perfect. Like, look how beautiful these mugs are, bro. These are perfect notes. I'm not gonna lie. My favorite is that $10, that green one. I like the green one a lot. I like the 200 Rand a lot too. We all like the 200, but that green one looks fire, bro. I don't know. I don't know if it's just because of the color. It just look nice. Like money is green. Green is money. You feel me? I don't know. I don't know. I like the green one. I like the blue one too. And I like all of them. I like all of them, bro.
animals on the reverse side of the note. In 2018, there was a special seventh edition of the South African notes, and these were a special Nelson Mandela centenary note, where there was
Oh,
Nelson Mandela on the front, and on the reverse, there's a young Mandela in various places of importance, such as his home in Mvezo or his home in Soweto, as well as
oh,
Mandela at the
wow.
Union buildings. So these
I've
were
never
a
seen those.
centenary commemoration note. The eighth and last issue that's currently in circulation started in 2023, which was last year, May 2023, and it has Mandela on the front, as per the other ones, and the big five on the reverse. But the difference is the big five have young animals with them, so changed slightly, as well as a lot of new security features, new updates, lots of different wording as well. The interesting thing about South African currency is all of the notes issued from 1961 within the South African Republic remain legal tender. So if you found a note from
You can still use
1961,
it.
you could spend it.
Bruh.
But
But you can still use these. But imagine using a note like that. Hold on.
note from 1961,
Imagine using a note like this, y'all. Like you can still use this, but 1 Rand though. What you gonna do a 1 Rand, dog? That's crazy. That's crazy, bro.
you could spend it but it retains its legal face value. So if it said R1 note, it would be still worth R1 in today's times. So I'll probably keep it and frame it if I found on old
For
money,
real.
but you could
Yeah.
actually still use them today. So nothing goes out of print or out of.
I wonder like resale value though, because I know a lot of like old money, like old dollars and stuff like that in the US, they go for more than what it's actually worth. Like, you know what I'm saying? What you can actually use it for. So like if you find like a really, really old quarter, for example, people will sell that quarter for hundreds of dollars sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Or even more than that. So I wonder, is it the same thing? It's got to be the same thing, right? Because who's really gonna use this old note? It's like a collector's item at this point. You know what I'm saying? It's something that's very rare. So I feel like the value of it has to be high because people aren't looking to use it. People are looking to, like he said, frame it, collect it, you know? So I feel like it's a collector's item. It's got to be something that's worth more than 1 rand to somebody out there, you know?
Use. The actual money is made by a process of printing, cutting, and assembly. First, the paper is printed with the image of the South African coat of arms. Then the paper is cut into the individual note sizes, and different notes have different sizes, so that's pretty interesting. And then they're assembled into bundles. The final step is then to add all the security features, such as the security strip, which is on the back of the note. Banknotes have to be tough. They have to be able to cope with lots of pressures, people accidentally putting them in the wash, people throwing them, using them, almost trying to rip them, so they're made quite strong. What is quite interesting is they actually do tests on the notes to make sure that they can withstand various detergents if someone were to put it in the washing machine. So if there's a new Omo that comes out, they test the money to make sure it can still stand against that. Notes are then also put through folding and crumple tests, which include crumpling a note and repeatedly hitting it with a hammer until it falls apart to make sure that the notes are of a good, sturdy quality.
Hey,
Because people
bro.
are rough with money, let's be honest. A
People are.
banknote's
Definitely at the
lifespan
strip
or
club,
life
bro.
expectancy is related to its face value. So a 200 note could last for many years, whereas a 10 Rand note is probably only going to last for about 3 months. So if you've noticed, a 10 Rand note, it's very papery, it's much more easy to break, but a 200 Rand note could last for a really long time. It's really good quality. There is an obsession with security at the South African Banknote Company, and they haven't had a lot of losses or thefts from the plant, which I find pretty cool. Notes and paper.
Shoot. Goodness, man. Thank y'all. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The raw paper are constantly counted in and out of each stage of the production process, and often in the middle as well. And if the counts don't tally up, they close the gates and say, "Yay, no one's leaving the plant until we manage to figure out where the money has gone, or the paper to print the money." So for
Ain't
example,
nobody
if the
leaving.
South African Banknote Company orders 1 million sheets of paper, that's the exact number of cash money that is produced on the end of the whole process. At the end of the production, the company has to produce certificates of balance, which show exactly what paper was used where and what happened to any of the leftovers, if there are leftovers. Interestingly enough, the paper that we use for our banknotes comes from Europe, but it's specially made for our South African currency. It arrives in the country containing different security fibers, metallic thread, and watermarks. The paper is actually made of cotton rather than wood as normal paper, because this gives it increased durability and strength, as well as it's a security feature because it's a lot more difficult for somebody to find cotton paper than wood paper. What's also interesting is that most of the inks used on banknotes, especially the exotic, fluorescent, and invisible inks, are also imported. So South Africa imports a lot of the resources they need to make the notes, but they do actually print them in South Africa. And that is the process of printing money in South Africa. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you learned something. Pop in the comments what you thought, if you have any questions or concerns, and I will get to those. Also, if you have any ideas of videos you would like me to make, I will make sure to do that. Thank you so much.
More of these educational videos, bro. I've learned a lot from you. From the past 2 videos I've checked out, bro. I've learned a lot. I know I'm sure you guys learned a lot as well, man. Link to his channel, link to this vid will be in the description. Thank you guys for reminding me. Sometimes I do forget to leave the link to the original vid. I don't know, like just have so much going on, and I just like I remember it and I forget. So thank you guys. Make sure you know what I'm saying. If y'all don't see the link to the original video, please kindly remind me. I will, and I do it on the spot too. I do it on the spot. But I appreciate you guys for some of you guys who reminded me last time. You know what I'm saying? I love to give credit to the original video, man. But I hope you guys enjoy my reaction, my commentary, man. Shout out my guy right here, bro. He taught us how to print money today. You know what I'm saying? He taught us how South Africa prints money, the history of the note and everything. You know what I'm saying? But I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Stay tuned, FC.